Hello and welcome to another little outdoor adventure. This weekend it's kind of switching gears a little bit. The weather was going to be nice and I haven't gone fishing at all this year. Last fall my wife got me a kayak for my Christmas present, and I took it out once last fall, paddled around with it for like maybe half hour max. So I've been wanting to get out as soon as it warmed up and got nice and the fish started biting. I wanted to take the kayak out and do some kayak fishing, and I wanted to come out to this lake. I've never fished at it. It's a pretty small lake. I've been out here. I've camped out here several times over the years, but I don't think I've ever been here in any season outside of winter or maybe really late fall. I came out here and camped over New Year's Eve and New Year's when it got down to about 10 below zero or so. But I've never been here this time of year, so it's kind of interesting. This location is over an hour away from where I live, so I knew I could either pack up all the the kayak and all the fishing stuff and get a really early start and drive out here and then fish and then go back home, or I could come out, get here in the evening, camp overnight, do it that way. And I decided to go with that route. My wife suggested it, and if she's in agreement with me spending another night away from home, then that's I'll take advantage of it. It's gonna get down like I think kind of the mid to low 40s tonight. I just brought the hammock out. I'm gonna just sack out in the hammock in my down sleeping bag. I'm not even gonna set up a tarp over the top because there's pretty much no chance of rain at all. I think I'm just gonna set it up under these cedar trees, which I've set up tents under a number of times over the years. These cedar trees are kind of my buddies out here. I'm gonna be really sad when these things disappear, which will happen someday, but hopefully that's a long ways in the future. But I'm just gonna kind of get my little kind of lightweight camp set up. Want to have a campfire tonight. There's already some wood out here by the fire ring, so that's kind of a nice bonus. There's lots of wood out here to be had, so that's really not an issue in that regard. But you're welcome to join me and just kind of have some fun. I know tomorrow I'm going to be really limited in how much videoing I can do with the kayak and the fishing, because unfortunately I can't take this camera with me in the kayak because it could quite possibly get destroyed pretty easily. So we'll see what we can do with that. While I still have some light to shoot decent pictures, I thought I'd do a little unboxing segment. I got this Luminoodle today. It's kind of interesting packaging. It's all sealed up in this little Ziploc bag. So I'll just open this and just keep that flap on there. It helps keep it from blowing away. Hey, here's a little teaching opportunity. This is what is known in some circles as one-piece trash. It's still connected, so like you open your hot cocoa packet or your oatmeal packet or whatever, and you don't tear the whole thing off. That just helps keep it together so it doesn't blow off or you forget it or something. Helps you to keep from littering. And do I really have to tell you, folks, don't litter? You would think anybody that would go outside and enjoy the outdoors would pick up their trash, but people don't. All right, here's our little light rope. Comes in this ripstop nylon bag. Open this up here. That's interesting there. I'll be honest, this probably isn't the best cordage here. You could probably restring. I might actually just take it upon myself to restring this. I have some really narrow, it's not exactly paracord, but it's something about this size. But this stuff it's doing the job, and the cord lock's good. Alright, so in here we have, okay, I guess these are the three little ties that help you secure it to something. And here's our light noodle. It's all packaged up here. Let's see if I can take this off. Some pieces of like masking tape on there. Okay. Kind of wonder if it's intended to be put on the spool when you're storing it or not. I'm not sure you really need it. I would think that mostly just be a shipping thing so it keeps it nice and tidy in that package. So here's the Luminoodle. I got the 5-foot one. It has the little apparently magnets on here that help secure it, something like if you're working on your vehicle or something. USB plug. I have a battery to hook this up to. Apparently they sell them with a battery included, or you can get it without the battery included. And at the time I originally ordered this, I did not notice that there was a battery included version, so I bought the battery separately. These are supposedly really great lights, so I'm looking forward to trying this out tonight. I will definitely break it out when it gets darker, and we'll fire this thing up and take a look at it. Should be a nice little addition to my outdoor toys. The Luminoodle has this kind of neat function where when you put it in that white nylon or ripstop nylon bag, just have it kind of coiled up in there, it functions as a lantern. And it does give off some pretty good light. It's kind of hard to tell on the video here, but you know, it is throwing some light around. Here, let me shut this other light off. Yeah, I mean, it's giving off some good light. You could hang this up and it would light things up pretty well. Later on, I'm gonna string this up along a rope that I strung between the two trees that my hammock is strung between. That way it'll shine some light down on me. The cherry campfire started with one tiny little hot spark off of a piece of steel. One tiny spark grows into a full fire. I just really love that process of starting a fire with flint and steel. Big old fire that lasts hours, all from one little steel spark. Very, very short-lived steel spark. Gaze into the hypnotic depths of the warm campfire. Have the Luminoodle stretched out here along that rope I hung above the hammock, and it's really giving off some good light. It really might be a little tricky to see, but it's really lighting up the hammock pretty well. I hung it up with the little fasteners there, and the battery package is kind of dangling there. It hasn't come unplugged yet, so it seems to be doing pretty well. So far I'm really liking that. Pretty neat little thing. To be very comfortable tonight. Yep. Good night. Suppose I might as well get up. Fishing time's a wasting. I'm heating up some water for oatmeal and also for my coffee. I decided, just because I could, to pull out my my little MSR Pocket Rocket 2 cook set stove, and also my Trangia alcohol stove. And shoot, if I felt like it, I could just put water in my Morris bush pot and just toss it on the fire. Now that I got that going again, but I'll just use the stoves, might as well. But I'm noticing something right away, which I kind of thought might be an issue. And it kind of speaks to one thing that I think is at least somewhat a downside of these gas, or these like propane butane canister stoves. They don't have any real windscreen around the flame at all, and it's not windy out here, but there is a little bit of a breeze blowing. And the stove's having some issues with the flame and the heat basically just being blown right away from the pot, which is not good. It's basically a lot of that gas that I'm burning is just being wasted. I would say that kind of a little preliminary observation is that with the Pocket Rocket stove, it does have a little piece of metal over the burner that they put on there as a way of helping to keep it from blowing out. Like, you might blow out the flame off of the burner on one or two sides of that little piece of metal, but one side should still stay lit and then relight the whole burner. And it hasn't gone out at all. But right now, you probably can't see it, but there's a yellow flame being blown my direction. Maybe I'll turn it up, maybe that'll help a little bit. But it's still doing a little bit. The only reason why I have it on the table and not down like right next to a tree where it'd get a little bit of windbreak is just to kind of help, just to get it on video well. But some stoves you can put a foldable aluminum windscreen around them. But I would really hesitate to do that with a stove. Any stove that contains the fuel right below the stove, you definitely hesitate to do that. If not, you just flat out shouldn't do it, because you don't want that the fuel canister or fuel tank to get extra hot in there, and then pressurize and over pressurize, and then basically the stove either starts leaking or squirting fuel out because it's over pressurized, or I guess in extreme case would just blow up on you. So I'd be really leery about enclosing this in a windscreen. Although at least with the gas canister stoves, as the fuel in there, the liquid fuel vaporizes, it's endothermic sort of, I guess I would say reaction, because I don't think there's any chemical reaction going on, but it's a endothermic change of states or something going on, which causes that fuel canister to get cold. Sometimes they'll get icy cold if you're just vaporizing a lot of that fuel fast. So that itself would help to keep that fuel canister cool, which would be a good thing. But anyway, you know, it's kind of a limitation of these stoves, or something you just have to work around. You know, you could I would very carefully prop your pack up in front of it or something. Just make sure your pack doesn't roll over on top of it, and that you don't burn a hole through your pack or light your pack on fire with it, or nestled up against a tree, you know, the leeward side of a tree would probably help somewhat, at least. They're good. These little gas canister stoves that fold up are awesome in the fact that they're small. I mean, they can take up very, very little space in your pack. They can, I mean, they're very lightweight and don't weigh a whole lot. They're awesome in those regards, but in the actual use and application of them, they just kind of bring some things to the table that you might have to work around. Namely, the fact that, you know, it's a little bit harder to deal with the wind. You know, meanwhile, my Trangia alcohol stove over here is just plugging away. It's not having any problems with the wind at all. Which reminds me, maybe I should point the little air intake holes towards the wind. Not that there's much wind, but I really love these things because there's nothing to break on them. I had a couple of instances back earlier this year when it was really cold. As actually, the first one was when I was out here camping over New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, where it was down single digits or below zero the whole time I was out here, at least in the evening and morning. And when I went to use the stove, I brought one of my old Coleman Peak 1 white gas stoves with me, and I tried firing it up to use it, and it just started leaking fuel for some reason. I'm not exactly sure why. I thought maybe it was so cold that a seal had just broken or something, and that's why it was leaking fuel. So that was a failure. Every time I tried lighting it up, fuel just started leaking out of the top of the stove somewhere. So I couldn't use that one on that trip, but I'm glad I brought my Trangia set because it worked just fine. All it has is that little brass burner cup, and there's really nothing that can break with that. I mean, the whole thing could crack. Even if the thing cracked, it would probably still work. So it's a very simple system, but that's the beauty of it. It's so simple, nothing can break on it. And I used it for that camp out. And then about 2 weeks later, I went on another fairly cold weather camp out where it was probably down around maybe the teens Fahrenheit. And I was talking Fahrenheit the time before too. Because I don't think 0 Celsius is all that cold. That's just chilly. But on that camp out, when I was back in the teens Fahrenheit, kind of the same exact thing happened. I took a different white gas stove. In this case, it was actually my MSR Dragonfly, which is a great stove. And something with the pump was leaking fuel. And I thought to myself, oh no, not this again. And on that trip, I did bring my Optimus 8R, a really old, classic, old school white gas camp stove, which I love. And due to the fact that the last 2 white gas stoves I'd tried to use had totally failed on me in the cold conditions, and I kind of thought maybe I'd broken seals or something on them, I wasn't even going to try to fire up that 8R because I didn't want to have to try to look for seals and repair it on top of everything else. So But once again, I brought the Trangia stove. It worked just fine. It's really awesome. It's simplicity. It doesn't break. You know, I don't think it probably does have the heat output of some of the white gas stoves where you can really crank them up to a rip roar and burn, but you know, it gets the job done. The fuel's, I think, probably cheaper overall than white gas. So I really love these alcohol stoves. I'm kind of surprised that the Trangia stoves themselves aren't a little bit more popular in the United States. It's kind of hard to find them, to buy them. People, and we're boiling here. Put that out. The Trangias really are a great stove, and I boiled a whole, I'm not even sure how much water is in this. It boiled faster than this one did. And there's only about a cup and a half at most of water in this thing. And it's basically just because the wind is blowing it all over the place. So that, that might tell you something. Yeah, the little pocket rocket stove needs some help here with the little bit of wind we have going on here. So I stood my pack up there carefully. It's not going to roll over onto the into that stove very well. And we'll see if this thing doesn't boil a lot faster. And it's almost getting there now. But that was mostly a product of the wind just blowing on that burner, blowing all the heat out. Either blowing so much to where the burner wasn't barely burning properly, it got a lot of yellow flame instead of that nice blue flame. Also the fact it was just blowing the heat right out the side of the burner up there. But just with that little windbreak in my backpack, it's now boiling. So we're all set. Getting ready to take the kayak out for some fishing. You know, I've tossed a fishing rod and a little bit of tackle on this and paddled around for half an hour once upon a time last fall and did a little fishing. Didn't catch anything or get any bites, but so haven't really taken this thing out for much yet, so should be a fun experience. Wish I could do a little bit more video while I'm actually out, but pretty sure this camera would get completely ruined if I did that, so I better not try that. Well, I did bring my phone out. I have a little Pelican dry box that I got to put my phone in, so I have it out here. Haven't got any bites yet, but I'm still going after them. Hopefully the quality on my phone video here isn't too bad. It's what I started with, but I kind of moved to something better. I didn't even know this was a thing. This is like a huge, probably 4-foot carp. And it's just sitting there sunning itself belly up. That's the second time I've come up on that thing. The first time I actually thought it was a dying fish. I got up close to it and then it just rolled over and lazily swam off. And then I noticed again it was doing the same thing. I mean, I knew that carp sun themselves, but I didn't know that they would actually roll upside down on the surface and sun their white bellies above water. I want to see if that fish will pop up again and maybe I can get a little bit better video of it. But that's pretty interesting. Here's that carp again. I'm just kind of drifting up on it. And no joke, this thing is probably the very least, it's about 3.5 feet long, maybe more like, I think it's probably more like 4. And it just, I think it's getting wise to the fact that I keep coming up on it. Because the first time, I almost reached out with my oar to kind of tap at it to see what was going on with it before it swam off. Now it kind of, when I get closer, it swims off. Here's this fish again. I'll see if I can't get a little bit better video of it before it swims off again. I mean, this thing, it's hard to tell on here, but no joke, this thing's at least like 4 feet long. I mean, this right here is like the Kansas version of river monsters. Yep, there it goes. That is just a big carp. I don't think I've ever happened across one that big, at least out in the wild like that. And I didn't know that they would actually roll onto their backs and sun their bellies in the sun. It's like a little bluegill. Not the greatest catch in the world, but hey, it's the first fish I've caught today. Better than nothing. Yeah, just a little guy. I was hoping to get a little bit bigger than this, but a very small largemouth. I think I hooked this thing about 4 inches under the surface, right by the kayak, as that lure was about ready to come out of the water. Another miniature largemouth. Small largemouth. They kind of seem to be the best type that I'm good at catching, unfortunately. Miniature crappie. Not bad eating. They're a little bigger. That's a little bit more like it. Still not very big, but at least it's bigger than those mini ones. Well, thanks for joining me on this little outdoor adventure. This was kind of interesting. I hadn't really kayaked much. I hadn't ever caught a fish from a kayak, so I've done that, even if they were all pretty small. Thanks for joining me. And feel free to like the video, subscribe to my channel, comment below, and I'll see you next time.